Hello folks, and welcome to Telling Tinder Tales, the podcast where the search for love often goes wrong, dates get strange, but the one thing we can be sure of is that we'll all have a good laugh about it with me, Chris O'Neill.
And me, Thomasin Lockwood. Each week we invite someone on to tell us their tale. Could be disastrous, could be romantic. And then Chris and I ask some questions about it.
But for now, Thomasin, who have we got calling in today?
So, I'm very excited because we have something of an expert on dating and relationships today. I don't know about you, Chris, but I could do with it. Welcome, Steve. Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Where are you calling from today?
I'm calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I've been, dating since I was 10 years old, online dating since I was 21, and in multiple relationships over the years. And I've been coaching and consulting within the dating industry, as well as designing playful events for the last 15 years.
Awesome.
Impressive. When you're ready, Steve, take it away with your story, please.
Sure. I'm going to take us back to around 2017, possibly the last Tinder date I actually went on. This started with someone messaging me on a Friday night around 10 p.m. when I was sitting at home alone, not sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to get outside. And she sent me kind of an annoying message. It was that, "Oh, wow, you're a dating industry consultant. That must be so weird. Tell me about it." And that's kind of the typical message I get on Tinder. But in this case, she said that she was bored. All her friends were out drinking. She doesn't drink. And she wanted to know what I was up to. And so we decided that I would come over to her place. It took me an hour and a half to get there, 2 subway transfers in Manhattan. It was bad, but it was worth it because we ended up meeting up around 11:30. We went out gallivanting long past midnight, around 4 a.m. after having talked while walking through many different parks in the Upper West Side. We ended up going back to her dorm and having a wonderful little cuddle time. We stayed up most of the night. She had a field trip the following morning, and so I walked her to the bus, got coffee, and brought it to her right as the bus was pulling away. And
Sweet.
It started off so beautifully. We then, for the next 3 months, escalated. We were seeing each other regularly. Suddenly, one day, she invited me out to a hookah bar because she was already there with some friends, including this one boy. And it seemed that they were getting along quite well, and this was fine. I was already in other relationships. I'm polyamorous. This was not a weird or a big deal. And so, funnily enough, though, within the week of her meeting this person, suddenly her texts per day dropped to near 0. And I flagged that to her as what's going on here? It sounds like you might be escalating with this person. I think that's great, but I'd like some more communication. Let's talk through it. So we arranged a little meetup. We talked through it. It turned out she was falling madly in love with this other person. And within a month, she dropped out of school and moved across the world to go organic farming with him for the next 5 years.
Ooh.
And it was quite a dramatic transition because she and I, a week prior to her meeting that person, were skipping down the streets of downtown Brooklyn, belting Broadway tunes at midnight. We had such a cutesy dynamic that I loved, and it was really painful to see her go. But it was also incredible that she had met someone where she felt that degree of conviction. So I really had to put my conversion to the test and feeling pleasure in her pleasure and delight in her delight. And so it turns out then, right around the time of the pandemic, she reaches out to me out of the blue to say, "Hey, so remember that time I kind of left you for several years in a lurch? Sorry about that.
Cool.
The relationship I got into is now over, mostly. I'm kind of still living in the same community as him, and it's awkward. But in any event, would you like to come hang out with me for the indefinite future on this beautiful little campground estate that I'm living in right now?" And I had to inform her that I'm dating a new person and we are pretty serious about it. And she's like, "Oh yeah, bring her too. That would be great. You can both come live here." And so we took a random month in the middle of the pandemic to go and move to a different state to hang out with this person and get to hang out with roaming doggos, all these new people, and got to reconnect after so many years apart. So it turned out to have a beautiful little bow on the end of that relatively dramatic change. And as of, I believe it was 2 days ago, she is now engaged. So I'm very happy to see that her life is going in a great direction.
Well, I'm really glad it has got a happy ending, because for a moment there it was giving Midsummer.
Oh, yeah.
I was a little bit worried about where that was going next, but lovely. Chris, what are your thoughts?
When I heard that she left and went for she went across the country with someone, having known them for a short period of time, and I was worried that the next phone call would be from the police.
Oh, God, Chris!
It's extreme to move like that with such speed. But I'm delighted I was entirely wrong.
I know. Well, Steve called it. He literally. I remember you said it was incredible to see, and in my head I was like, "Is it incredible?" But it sounds like it was a great experience. I mean, Steve's the expert. He called it, and he's like, "This is correct."
Yeah. Do you know how long before she introduced you to him they had met?
I believe it was the same night. Like, she had met him, they were at the hookah bar, and since I was about 2 blocks away, she said, "Oh, you're super nearby, come hang out."
Okay, so they met in real life, for want of a better term.
Do you know why they broke up?
I think that his general disposition toward the world and affect shifted, or maybe became more real and apparent to her, and she decided that she did not want to be in that kind of energy bubble and preferred a world where things were a bit more positive and optimistic, because he was rather sullen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See, from where I come from, we just call him a miserable prick. But that's some good media training. I need to get on that. You know what? I have a question for you. So you started talking at 10 p.m. at night, and you got to her place about 11:30 p.m. That might be the latest start time of a date we've heard on this podcast, yeah. Chris. But I was going to ask, what, in your opinion, is the most early you can start a date in the morning that is appropriate?
Like, you can start a date whenever you mutually choose to start one. I've started dates where I have to wake up at 6 a.m. because we're meeting at like 7:30 to take a subway to the end of the line to then do a 12-hour trek through various parts of the city. And so it's really whatever you can come up with that feels satisfying and delightful.
Are you a morning person or evening person? What do you prefer?
I'm a hardcore evening person. I gain energy from 8 p.m. through 4 a.m. and I only start to taper around 5 a.m. And so, yeah, this kind of a date was actually really easy for me, the one I described, because, you know, meeting at midnight, I was peak energy, and we literally talked straight for 5 hours. It was great.
I'd be appalled if anyone suggested I get up at 6 o'clock and get on a train and go for a 12-hour hike. I'd be actively upset. I think that would probably be the end before it began for the relationship, really. Yeah, but I presume that wasn't the first date.
That was a first date.
That was a first date.
I'm curious to hear. So Steve, you said you're poly. So how does that work into dating? Are you forthright with that? Is it you only date other poly people? How does that work?
I'm upfront in all of my profiles. I'm upfront and out amongst my friends and family. So everyone always knows ahead of time what they're getting themselves into. And I even specify the nature of the different relationships I'm in, whether I'm cohabitating with a partner or if I have other commit partners who I see from time to time. So it's been quite easy, honestly, because of the clarity. And it allows for people who are maybe just dipping their toes into poly to have a lot more of a sense of stability and care, because they get to know kind of where they stand at all times. And it also helps flag very early for anyone who's otherwise monogamously oriented that maybe they don't want to bark up this particular tree. Or if they do, that they know that it's going to be quite a ride for them, and that I will, walk them through it carefully and with diligence. But ultimately, I will probably send them on their way to go find their forever person.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, it's interesting, right? Because I feel like poly is it's something that's gaining more traction in recent years. Chris, was there ever anything like that around when you were dating before you met your wife? Like maybe it had a different word to poly? No.
No. Polly was a parrot's name, and that was about the height of it. No. No, I will say this. I did read somewhere that somebody was involved in a a polygamous relationship, a series of polygamous relationships, and their main complaint was that they really had to upskill their administrative capacity. Trying to schedule was more or less a nightmare, because trying to check who was available and when to do what became a large part of the operation, shall we say, which wouldn't be a turn on for me having to check a spreadsheet before anything happens. Yeah.
That's why you have shared calendars now. Do you know? I feel like the digital age definitely made it easier.
Oh, yeah,
what are your thoughts on that, Steve?
I totally concur that having a fluency in digital calendaring makes life a lot easier when living the polyamorous lifestyle. Honestly, some of my worst conflicts came from poor calendar management on my part. And that just continues to be something that will dog you throughout every relationship, because partner communication is essential. And that's not just the communication of like, oh, now you're in the same room. Oh, crap. It's more being hyper proactive about who knows what and when, and what do they need to know to feel a sense of agency and clarity so that they can continue trusting you into the future, as opposed to eroding that trust very quickly by virtue of scheduling snafus.
So on that basis, what software do you use?
Google Calendar gets me pretty far. Apple Calendar. I just have a lot of calendars that go in sync. Honestly, though, communicating through text well ahead of time does most of the work. Just flagging, hey, these are the dates that I'm looking forward to. Here's the things that I've got on my docket. Is there anything that you're looking forward to that you want to contribute to this that you think would be fun? And then there's also the separate thing, which is usually running a sheet of the people you've been with, so that your partner or partners can know what their relative risk levels might be, so that they'll know, okay, you've been with 3 other sexual partners in the last 4 months. So it would be nice to know, like, when were you last tested? When were they last tested? Who are they also seeing? So that I can have a sense of what my current risk threshold and risk level would be when engaging with you. And that gives us a sense of clarity and confidence for how we're going to engage.
Wow, that's very responsible, I have to say. I think it's interesting, right? This idea of like, oh, what's your magic number? What's your list? And I've never put it down in a spreadsheet. I can count it on my fingers just about. Well, maybe if I grew a couple more fingers. But how is it when you're filling in this stuff? Like I imagine there's a lot of room for reflection, right? Because you're being very intentional about these things.
There, in theory, can and probably should be more reflection than not. My original list was born out of a time when one of my earlier poly partners had seen, I believe it was 4 separate people, all with the same name. And so I was like, okay, we need to get this in writing somewhere, because I cannot follow all of these different people. I need like some sort of moniker to make it easier to differentiate them. And then we decided that we'd also start tracking, okay, what were the relevant contact points, so we know like what our risk threshold is. Like, were you having penetrative sex? Were you having, like, what were the things that actually went down, so that we can have a clearer sense of what we're getting ourselves into collectively.
I have to check one thing. When you say the same name, do you mean the same Christian name and surname?
Just the same first name.
That's all right, because I was wondering, because that would have been a fetish, I think, a rather
unusual
fetish.
That's a whole different can of worms.
That, oh, you're Peter Byrne. I'm going to have sex with you.
That's just my type.
You're just my type.
I was going on these wonderful, sometimes 12, sometimes 24, sometimes 48-hour dates. And so even 72 at times. I mean, I love dating. I think it's one of the greatest ways to get to know yourself and another person and hold space for who you are and who you'd like to be. And so I just regret a little bit not having a more fleshed out spreadsheet at the time.
I have to say, Steve, it's making a lot more sense that you became a dating consultant, because 48-hour dates with several people. I'm like, when do you go to work?
I can technically write that off as research, because I'm learning a lot about the dating market. Every single person tells me what it is that they're doing, like what apps they're on. They show me the profiles. They show me the messaging of who they're chatting with separately from me. They tell me about their past dates. So I'm also gleaning insights into where to go, what future dating opportunities there are.
This man's expensing his receipts. Like,
I'm impressed.
I'm just wondering, for you, do you have a limit for like how many you'd see in 1 week, how many you'd see all at once? Yeah, like do you have a limit?
Absolutely. There are limits to the number of relationships I could successfully be in. There are limits to the number of dates I can go on. I think I really don't like to be in more than 1 or 2 committed relationships at a time. And it would be hard to be in more than 1 nesting partnership, living with one of your partners. It's perfectly easy to have several comet partners who come in from time to time for anywhere from a day to a week. And even those, they still require negotiation with any current partners who I may have things on the calendar at the ready with.
So comet partners. So when you said you went to go visit your ex at the farm or the community that she was in, and you took your partner. So the partner you went would have been your sort of primary, and then you would have maybe had like comet partners visiting there, or maybe it was all platonic. I don't know.
It does certainly run that gamut. There are some people who are in a state of, let's say, comet partnership, but sometimes they'll end up getting, like, if I don't see them for more than 1 or 2 days a year, sometimes they just end up getting into a monogamous relationship with someone else in the interim, and then I'll find out about that. And that just means we're going to switch to being platonic friends up until the point where I get that follow-up text a few years later saying, hey, so I'm out of that relationship. I'd love to see you again. And then we may be right back to being potentially sexual partners again. But I'd like to keep a lot of fluidity there because I recognize that there's a lot of complexity to people's relationships, especially if they're polyamorous or poly-oriented. And that will change certainly over time as they enter different life stages. And one of the things I find most rewarding about this lifestyle is that I can actually see people in, like flash forward 5 years, 10 years, and I get to see who they are now, who they're seeing now, what they envision their life path looking like now. And we have to then, if we see each other, renegotiate. What are we now? Are we still platonic friends? Are we still interested in each other romantically or sexually? What are the new sets of boundaries we have in light of our other competing partnerships? And so it calls us to consistently be upfront with one another and to maintain healthy channels of communication throughout. And that spans years, which I think is a great way to really see how people's relational identities unfold.
It sounds to me like people who are maybe experiencing the poly lifestyle might find it easier to transition after a date, the whole let's just be friends. That almost is like you've lost if that's like the end of date in a monogamous, whereas with poly it's more like just opening up to what that relationship looks like, whether it is platonic or romantic. And you said that was maybe like one of the last Tinder dates you did. So I'd be curious to know, first of all, why you stopped going on Tinder and what that experience has been on the apps versus meeting in person. And maybe as an expert, would you recommend one or the other?
Sure. I've been using about 300 different dating apps over the years. And
300?
Most of them are a colossal waste of time and a waste of attention and are there just to try to make a quick buck and not actually deliver people any meaningful results, which is unfortunate. But I've found that some apps do respect my attention a little bit better. I've been using OkCupid and Hinge. Recently, an app called Any came out by the makers of Dimensional, which is like a personality topography app. And I always wanted them to have a dating platform as part of it. And finally, they launched it. And so now it does tell you a lot more about your compatibility with the different people that you may be matching with. And so it's fun to just learn so much more than a standard app, which just says, you two liked each other. Cool. Bye. We're done here.
Yeah. So, do you think Tinder was a bit limiting in that sense? Tinder's very visual, right?
Yeah. I mean, Tinder's good at helping you very quickly assess who you're attracted to and who might be attracted to you. Although the latter is really in question because of the distribution of attention on the platform, where you have much larger proportion of users being men, spending more time swiping and racking up very few matches, all things considered, given their time expenditures on the app. And it's just unfortunate because the app doesn't do a great job of managing those attentional flows and constraints. To the other part of your question about dating offline, I wanted to chime in earlier about like when you have poly partners who want to be friends, one of the things, or even just dates that turn into friendships, in the poly world, it's very common for someone to, right after the fact, invite you to a play party or invite you to a threesome or ping you saying like, hey, there's a friend of mine who's coming into town. I'm busy with someone else, but like I'd love for you to go show them a good time. And so there's a spirit of generosity and referrals that exists very strongly within the poly world that is kind of unheard of in the monogamous world, or at least it's really awkward to, like, if you've dated someone to then be like, hey, friend, you should date this person too.
Yeah.
But I have also met people through, I mean, I host 12-hour hikes. Just they're kind of inspired by the dates I've gone on where I enjoyed this. It was great with one person. I bet it would be great with a whole bunch more people, being able to walk side by side through that whole experience. And so I've met hundreds of people that way just by hosting recurring events, either tied to friendship making or love languages or dating skill building. It's been great.
I wanted to ask you one more question, which I needed a bit of clarification on. You said you started dating at the age of 10. What's the story there?
Well, if I really want to tell you the true story, I went back to age 7 where I sent my first love letter to someone.
Go on.
I wrote my first love letter. I was in 2nd grade. I wrote it to a 4th grader. It ended with the phrase, I love you. And then my mom and sister, when I read it to them, like the day before I was going to give it to her, they're like, you might want to scale that back a little bit. And so I literally crossed out the word love and wrote the word like instead, and then still gave it to her.
You were like, great.
But
negging her, like.
No.
How successful was that particular stratagem?
She smiled and accepted it graciously and apparently kept it on her bureau for years to come, but we never actually dated. By age 10, though, I did meet someone at a friend's birthday party, and we were playing Spin the Bottle and kissed. And then after that, we're like, are we in a relationship now? Is that how this works? We're 10 years old. We don't know what we're doing. Technically, she was a 6th grader and I was only a 5th grader, so this was really out of my league.
Woman.
Oh, that's
And Steve, another thing, you mentioned you're polyamorous, but at what point did you decide that was what you wanted?
It started off first with the necessary private acknowledgement. I didn't know that this was really a thing until late in college when I met someone, my first ever partner off of a dating app, and we were trying to design a relationship, but I was already sort of seeing 3 people who were just kind of like study buddies. We'd hook up from time to time. So it wasn't like we were going anywhere. It wasn't a serious romantic thing with any of those 3 people. But the person I met was like, hey, Steve, like, you have these 3 people that you're somewhat entwined with. Like, if we want to build something, either you stop seeing them and we're monogamous, or I get to see at least 3 people of my own as well. And so that would then require some degree of non-monogamy. And so she offered up that I read The Ethical Slut and possibly opening up different books that help explain ways you can navigate non-traditional relationships and non-monogamy. And so we read The Ethical Slut together. We designed our first relationship to be non-monogamous. And we then had the excruciating couple months of, onboarding the first couple new partners into our lives. It then took another maybe 2 years before I fully came around to the polyamory side of it, like actually being able to say I love you to multiple people and mean it, and have that not make me feel like I'm somehow diminishing my love with my core partners. And so that was a longer progression. It took about 2 years all in before I finally found myself actively saying I love you to multiple people.
Right. Fascinating.
so
And at what point along the road did you become a dating consultant?
That happened relatively early. I already had a dating blog in college, and by my first year out of college, I started having friends offer to pay me just to keep talking to them about their dating strategies and plans, because I was already on 50 dating apps by the time the summer after college came around, and I was blogging about different apps utilities and like what they're good for, what I think dating apps should be doing instead. And so that's how I got started on the coaching side. And then that same year, someone that I was actively on a date with referred me to an industry client because she saw my phone screen and was like, oh God, there's so many dating apps here. Like, I have to do a research project about dating apps, and I'd rather you do the project. Can we just pay you to do it?
That's amazing.
Okay, so she was already working for the dating entity.
And then I ended up meeting someone else who asked me to join his team consulting for the dating industry, because he also heard me speak about the apps that I was using and what the dating scene was like in different cities. And so he's like, oh yeah, I want you on my team writing white papers and reports and interfacing with clients about how to build better apps.
Amazing.
Okay.
Gosh, well, that's a very organic pipeline. What was your experience writing the blog were you like Carrie in that you had to use like aliases like Mr. Big? Like how much did you share?
I wasn't so much describing my own personal romantic experiences. I'm not really one to kiss and tell. Especially given like in the poly world, it gets real small real fast if you start using names and even like subtle identifiers. Like I can sometimes notice who has what kinks just based on who knows who, because I can guess that they've already seen each other or are friends in some ways. And so it's kind of it's risky. So in my blog, I was just keeping it very business oriented and product oriented. So I was describing what the apps could actually do, what their failure points were, whether it was actually easy or hard to set up a date using this app. And so that's really what I focused on.
300 apps. 300.
Yeah.
The most idiosyncratic app is one that was mentioned at a live Telling Tinder Tales show, where a couple who were Muslim had said how they had met on this app, which had originally been called Muzzmatch, right? But then Match.com sued them, so they just called it Muzz, right? But the odd thing, but the interesting thing, whatever the feature of this is that the pictures on it are all blurred if you choose to make them blurred, so that there are no clear pictures. Right, so you swipe left or swipe right based on a blurred picture of someone. So that was the most idiosyncratic one. What's the weirdest app you've come across?
I think the weirdest one, and it failed within a year, so it kind of deserved to be gone given its weirdness, promised to show you people nearby that you could potentially meet up with, but it didn't let you message those people. It forced you to throw a rubber ducky at their avatar on a map. It was like a weird humanoid avatar with a fake face, not of them. And you had to like literally like Pokemon Go style, like grab this little duck in your screen and fling it at them. And that was your way of, I guess, breaking the ice.
Sounds like Habbo Hotel. What?
It was the most asinine thing I'd ever encountered on a dating app. And I was so grateful to see them disappear from existence.
And how do you know you've got a match? They pick it up and throw it back? Like what?
Completely unclear. I'm fairly certain that there were no real people on this app because you didn't even see a real face. You just saw their avatar face and you had to throw a fake duck at it. And like there was no way of knowing even what was supposed to happen at that point.
Because they didn't get past they'll throw a duck. They're like, we don't know where to go from here.
I think they were just doing one of those weird plays where they wanted to get a bunch of random user data on location data. Like dating apps can be made for really manipulative reasons. And a lot of dating apps are bought and owned by private equity companies who really just want the data. And it gets real seedy and real dark when you go to industry conferences and hear about people who make a business buying dating businesses, because sometimes they just have access to everything, all of the data, and they can do whatever they want with it once they own it.
All right. So the dating app is a lost leader almost for them to get their hands on information, what people are doing.
Sometimes they just want those 30,000 email addresses that they can then sell off to the highest bidder.
Holy smokes. It's so obvious when you say it. Like when I think about when you think like social media is like that, but
yeah.
Wow.
Data brokers, essentially. Yeah.
Yep. Dating apps are social networking apps. Like they fall within the same category.
Yeah.
Where does LinkedIn fall on the dating apps for you?
It depends, because there's also an app that used to exist called Linked Up.
No.
And there's also a kink app called KinkedIn.
Cute.
So I've seen many different iterations of attempts at fusing dating and networking. One of them actually made you log in with LinkedIn, and would it was real weird, because you'd start seeing profiles of people who are, like it would always show their job.
God, that turns into a blackmail scheme real quick.
Yes, it does. And that app did not last very long.
Oh wow, they qualify as weird.
And Steve, if you were to create your own app, if you were going to go to the sharks or the dragons and pitch your own idea for an app, what kind of niche would you go for?
I think that compatibility is really the holy grail in dating apps, because so many apps now fail to put us in front of people that we actually care to spend time with. and it's such a crapshoot. And almost every major dating app in existence today only tries to get you to the point of match, not to the point of even meeting up, and certainly not to the point of meeting up with someone who's compatible enough to get you to justify never going on a dating app again and committing to this person forever. That's really against their business model because they do not want you leaving forever. They want you coming back, and they want you telling your friends to come back. So if I were going to design an app, I would do two things. The first is that I'd want to get the superficiality out of the way first. It doesn't take that long for you to look at a panel of 100 faces and tap the ones that you're attracted to, do the same for bodies, and then boom, the app knows who you're roughly attracted to and should stop showing you people you're not attracted to, full stop. After that, it's a matter of what actually makes you compatible with the people that they're going to show you, knowing that you're already likely to be attracted to these people. Because that way they don't have to show you an endless stream of randos that you're not attracted to that just waste your time, but boosts their metrics for time on screen, which then they can use to leverage into ad dollars or making their VCs happy that more people are spending more time on their app. It's really dumb right now. And so I want to get the compatibility and the attraction accounted for through whatever dating app would come into existence. We have a lot of metrics for sussing out compatibility. OkCupid, way back when they first launched, honestly, I believe it was 2006, already had a really compelling match score that would give you up to a 99% match with various users. And they also had enemy scores and friend scores, so you'd know whether you'd get along as friends and whether you probably shouldn't be talking at all. And they've retired most of that at this point, which is really unfortunate because I found OkCupid for years to be one of the most compelling platforms for actually meeting the people you want to bring into your life.
Thank you, Steve. Chris, I think this might be the most educational episode. Yeah.
Yeah, it does give you an insight into the whole industry. And that's what I suppose the right phrase is. It's an industry. And they don't really want you to be happy. They want you to keep spending money. So thanks very much, Steve, for joining us. We've come to the end of the show. So have you any final thoughts or anything to say?
Sure. I feel for people right now. We are in a very difficult time where attention does not feel like it's being respected online, and where we've lost a lot of our good third spaces for gathering offline, and a lot of the responsibility for people coming together in relationships lately. This is now 50+% of people who are in relationships are citing online dating as the reason that they met in the first place. So you kind of have to go online as part of the challenge now because there aren't just as many spaces to meet people offline. So what I want to recommend is developing a fusion strategy where you should still be doing things outside of the realm of screens that bring you joy and hope in life. This can be volunteering, maintaining something of a project schedule that gets you excited, things that you can work toward and build in your life. Ideally, things that put you in front of different kinds of people, especially ones who you might be either attracted to or interested in, doing things that are not specifically romantic, but things that make you feel like you're living a well-rounded life that you can ultimately invite someone into. And then on the online frontier, use that as a tool for targeted matchmaking. Like dump as much of yourself as you can into your profile so that anyone you ultimately do get connected to has already seen your red flags, your yellow flags. They've seen this affirmative vision you've put into your profile of the life you're trying to live and build, and they can enthusiastically vote with their feet in your direction because we have these tools. We should be using them, and people are using them to the tune of over 350 million people globally. And so there's something to be said about them. They can work exceptionally well, but they also can be quite harmful if we don't use them well. They can feel like they drag us through the mud where we end up with no matches because we have either a bad profile or we're not presenting ourselves in a way that feels like a real person. They're getting flooded by AI more and more, so we have to be mindful of that. And so don't put all your eggs in the online basket, but do treat it as a useful tool to help with targeted selection of people who are genuinely compatible with you when you've put enough of yourself into the profile for them to look at your profile and say, wow, this person is actually compatible with me. And think about your profile that way. If you can show it to someone and they don't recognize it as being truly you, then you haven't done the work yet.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Round of applause for Steve. Thank you so much. If you'd like to hear more about Steve Dean, check out his Substack. Please head to dateworking.com. You can find out all things on Steve Dean there. So thank you to him. Thank you, listeners, very much for tuning in today. If you liked us, give us a review, give us a like, a subscribe, a follow, all the things you need to do on the platform you're listening to us on. The review is really important for an up-and-coming podcast like us. Give us 5 stars. If you give us 5 stars, I will bring you coffee to the bus stop. If you give us 1 star, I will sign you up to all 300 dating apps. And, of course, do it the old-fashioned way as well. Tell someone about us. Are you next on a lovely hiking date? As well as pointing out the beautiful view, why don't you tell them about this wonderful podcast you're listening to, Telling Tinder Tales, and give us a follow on our socials on Instagram, TikTok, at Telling Tinder Tales.
You can catch Telling Tinder Tales at festivals throughout the UK, including the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. In the meantime, we're at Leicester Comedy Festival in February and Glasgow in March. Please do come along.
If you fancy being a guest yourself, send us an email to tellingtindertales@gmail.com.
Say goodbye, folks.
Bye!
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Telling Tinder Tales is hosted and produced by me, Chris O'Neill, and Thomasin Lockwood. Produced and edited by Lucy Regan, with music by Kinkas Moreira. It's a Jester's Comedy Dublin production and is no way affiliated with or endorsed by Tinder. If you have a story to tell, please get in touch. Details are in the show notes. And if you like us, instead of swiping right, follow us on Instagram and or TikTok at Telling Tinder Tales.